In a world of electric vehicles and automatic transmissions, the F87 BMW M2 Competition is a back to its roots BMW, and one that I think is BMW's best. Behind me, we have a car with exterior modifications, interior modifications, and a lot more horsepower. We're going to show you how we took one of BMW's best driver's cars to the next level. As you guys can see, this is not a standard M2 Competition. This specific car has some of the most rare parts that I've seen on any car we've worked on here at PSI. The first thing I'll point out is the full carbon fiber 3D design front bumper, which includes this lower splitter. 3D Design is a company I've worked with for a really long time, and our friends at IND are actually the distributors of 3D Design. They come from Japan. They have a relationship with Studi, and they make some of the best fitment and carbon fiber parts around. The really neat thing is they've actually tied it in with the BMW M Performance parts that were released on the F87 Competition, with the carbon hood and the rarely seen carbon fenders as well. There's also a really nice touch that has the carbon grille, also from M Performance. And then a detail that I do on all of my cars, this has the IND painted rondelles, where the edge of the rondelle, which is normally silver, is painted in a gloss black to just help it blend in more with the car and the shadow line trim of the M cars. They've also added the 3D Design pinstriping, which is a signature detail from 3D Design Japan, which to me really finishes the look of the vehicle, and also ties it in with the side skirt extensions that are here, also in carbon fiber from 3D Design. One of the other things that didn't come on the F87 M2 Competitions were the carbon roof. They were only on the M2 CS version in the big weave. A lot of customers opt to do the RKP 2x2 weave, which is the standard weave that you see on normal carbon roofs from BMW. And that's been installed here with, of course, the shadow line black rain gutters to tie it all in with the shadow line. Now to the most aggressive part of the F87 M2 Competition, the rear. And it really is accentuated by the M Performance carbon trunk with the built-in wing. It sort of looks like fangs coming off the back. Really rare part, never see it on these cars. And it's also paired with the 3D Design rear diffuser, which continues on from the side skirt with that same shape and angle. And this is covering the Akrapovic rear exhaust, which this car has the full Akrapovic exhaust with the F87 round tips, which are the period tips for this particular car. In addition to the exterior components, you guys will also notice that the ride height and the wheels and the brakes have been changed on the car to basically have a best you can get type of situation. We'll start with the wheels. These are the HRE Vintage 305s with some special touches of frozen dark clear and I believe a standard gray from HRE. It also has titanium studs from Future Classic, which is a great pairing for color, and it really adds to the details on the build. To eliminate the wheel gap and give the proper stance, especially for the power that this makes, it's on KW Club Sport 3-ways with the full suite of fall line control arms, pillow balls, and all of the mounts necessary so you don't have a swirly vehicle with 700 horsepower. Last but not least, the Brembo GTS calipers in the front and the rear, which is one of my favorite classic style calipers for the F chassis cars. All of the exterior modifications, the wheels, the brakes, and the suspension was all done by our friends IND Distribution up in Chicago, and they started this build a couple years back with all of these rare modifications, and they did an amazing job. They have some expert painters there that can match the OEM paint and all the details necessary to make anyone think this came like this from the factory. Before we get to the horsepower that this made, let me show you guys the special PSI touches that we added to this interior on an already amazing build. The guys at IND had also added some special touches like the GTS steering wheel with M Performance carbon trim and the e-brake handle to match, along with the shifter knob for the M Performance as well, which has that special F chassis shape. But I felt like the interior needed something additional to elevate the car and match the wild nature of the exterior. So we went ahead and added the Sportsters from Recaro which were custom built and designed by AMX Performance and myself in Poland and built for us custom for this car. It has a special AMX design here in the center with the stitching, special Alcantara, as well as the matching leather and the matching stitching color throughout that matches the door panels, matches the mats in this car, the center console, the e-brake handle, everything ties in with that orange stitching. We also added the OEM M2 badges that the F chassis are famous for to really tie in and add an OEM look to the interior. You'll also notice the rear panel in carbon and also the seat base in carbon, which adds just a little bit more carbon fiber to this interior. Let me pop the hood and show you guys how we took a 405 horsepower M2 Competition to over 700 horsepower. So for most people, the S55 that was put in the M2 Competition is enough power at 405 horsepower and 405 torque. But for this customer, because he's an original owner, he wanted more horsepower, more torque, and more fun. But before we could add the fun, we have to do the maintenance to make the S55 a bulletproof engine, which started with the crank hub. And we used the 4-pin Evolve crank hub from the UK, which is the best option for these cars. And we replace every component that we touch to do the crank hub with a brand new OEM component from BMW. We also always change charge coolers because the charge coolers from factory leak. And they leak internally and they leak into the motor, causing engine failure, which we've seen on a couple cars here at PSI. This one we went with is the Wagner tuning, which is a great option. We also install a lot of CSF charge coolers as well. And this particular charge cooler is mated with the Venturi charge pipes, which is a pretty rare option that we never see. To match the carbon charge pipes, there's a custom painted carbon engine cover, which also ties in the Venturi full intake system, which also matches the OEM carbon bar, which really accentuates this whole entire under the engine bay look. You'll also notice the Future Classic oil cap, which adds that aesthetic that finishes up the engine bay and everything with this car. In addition to the aesthetics, we added power. And the first step for power is the pure Stage 2 Plus turbos paired with the Dorch lift pump and the EU5 larger injectors. This particular build was made to drive. So we didn't have a set target horsepower or a target torque. We wanted the power to be linear. We wanted it to be a controllable drive, especially with the M2 wheelbase. And for all of that tuning and all of that fine detail, we turned to Kerry Jordan at Jordan Tune, and we're going to talk about that next. With all the maintenance and modifications complete, it was time to get the car strapped down at our Winter Park location on our DynoJet all-wheel drive dyno, which we share with Kerry Jordan at Jordan Tuned. This is the time when Kerry remotes in, connects to the car, and gets started on the tuning. The priority with this build was to keep the OEM drivability just turned up a notch. So we chose to keep the factory clutch to keep the driving dynamics the same as a stock car. With the stock clutch, it limits the power ultimately we can make because of the torque limit on the clutch and wearing out the clutch in this particular case. This car made on the dyno 680 horsepower with 93 octane and 670 torque, and on E85 it made 730 horsepower and again 680 foot-pounds of torque. These power levels were reached with multiple sessions remotely from Kerry Jordan, connected with the dyno and connected to the car here, so he can see all of the data and telemetry in real time and make real-time revisions to the tune, flash it to the car, and then do a run on the dyno. In this particular case, with a flex fuel map, we tuned the car both with full E85 and with pump gas, and then the blend table comes into play, where the blend table is tweaked and honed in to make the drivability at any E level, E40, E50, be exactly how it should be, how it is on pump, how it is on E85, have it drive the same, just with the different power levels. The dyno is an important tool with tuning because of the quickness of today's cars. We really can't do street logging, we really can't do street pulls because of how fast these cars are, reaching 700-800 horsepower, and it also allows us to have a controlled environment to be able to watch the car, to be able to see all of the data, all of the AFRs, and be right there, right next to the car during this tuning process. Now it's time for me to hop in the F87 M2 and take you guys on a quick spin. So now I'm driving the F87 M2 Competition build. While the customer did want more horsepower, there was also a drivability that I always go for in our builds, and this actual customer wanted. Anybody can build a race car, anybody can build a max power car, and that's absolutely not what we did with this. This was a balance of being able to have the best driving feel from a BMW, but also maximize that in a capable way, in a daily driven type of way, and that's what we like to specialize in. All the performance builds that we do are meant to enjoy, meant to be reliable, and meant to be gotten in and driven every single day without the worry of, well, what fuel do I have? Or what's the clutch going to do today? Or is my car going to start? And all of those worries that come with a max power build or a special custom turbo, anything like that. As we get into the power here, really has just a night and day difference from the factory power delivery, but you guys can see the linear pull that this did. Really not any lag to be found. And there we go, there's another part throttle sort of lift off, and the car feels firm and planted, it's not unsettled. There's that great sound. You can hear the turbos kick in, you can hear them really building that boost. And one thing I'll mention too, this is on the 93 tune, so this is making around 680 wheel horsepower, about the middle of the range of the RPM. It's a really nice car. I always forget how good these cars are, especially with modifications like this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this really detailed overview of this particular F87 M2 Competition build. If you guys love this build, make sure you comment down below. And if you guys want to get in touch to build a car just like this or any other special BMW, make sure you contact us. All of our information is down in the description. See you guys next time.